everyone. The financial services industry is undergoing significant changes, and with open banking, there is a real revolution happening out there. You have to think about it. Banks know everything about their customers. They know how much money you make, they know how you're spending your money, they know what your investments are, they know what your debt level is, they even know when you're traveling abroad and require foreign currency. They've been holding this data, and they've been the only one having access to this data for centuries. And with open banking, with the PSD2 regulation, the second Payment Services Directive from the European Union, the European banks are now forced to share this data, to expose their customers' data in a secure way via APIs to fintechs and startups. The same fintechs and startups they are actually competing with. So this is really a revolution happening out there, and it is not only happening in Europe, it's also happening beyond the European Union boundaries. You will actually see banks in countries like Australia or Canada or other countries doing exactly the same, exposing their customers' data in a secure way via APIs to fintechs and startups. And they are doing that even though there is no law, there is no regulation obliging them to do that. They are doing this because they see the opportunity with open banking. They really see it as an opportunity for them to explore new business models. They see it as an opportunity to foster collaboration and innovation with fintechs and startups. Now, open banking is changing a lot of things in the financial services industry. It's also increasing the competition between banks and fintechs. And this is putting a lot of pressure on traditional players who have to adapt to these changes. Otherwise, they will be losing market share to fintechs and startups. This is also changing the customer's expectations. If you think about it, you are much more demanding today with your banks than what you used to be 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago. Your expectations are much higher. Once you have the possibility to go with a fintech and open a bank account within 5 minutes with your mobile, your expectations completely change with your bank. And that's, again, putting a lot of pressure on banks and traditional players, traditional financial institutions, in order to adapt to these changes and provide better service and better user experience to their customers. Otherwise, they will be losing market share to the competition. Now, this is all very specific to the financial services industry. There is another revolution happening out there, and you've been hearing a lot today about blockchain, AI, big data, machine learning, robotics, Internet of Things, and cybersecurity, which is also key and vital for all these innovations to be successful. These are not only buzzwords, these are real products that are ready in the market. You've seen examples of error detections in trading, blockchain platforms digitalizing a number of processes in the financial services industry and changing completely these processes. These are products that already exist in the market in the financial services industry. And again, this is putting a lot of pressure on financial institutions, so they need to adapt to these changing technologies, otherwise they will be left behind. And then there is a third revolution. This is with the software industry. The software industry is moving from building products and solutions to building platforms that are given to users to contribute and to collaborate. Innovation is actually moving outside of the closed doors of innovation labs and R&D departments to communities of users that have access to the technology, that have access to the data via open platforms. And this is also changing the way software is being written, deployed, used, and monetized. You don't anymore buy software, install it, and use it forever. You subscribe to a service, you access it via an API, and you are built based on your API consumption, based on the number of API calls you are using. This is, again, a significant change in the software industry and in the fintech industry. So we've seen three revolutions: open banking, the technology, the disruptive technologies, and the move towards platform. With these three revolutions in mind, banks and fintechs need still to keep focus on their customers. They need to be customer obsessed. They need to develop their customers' empathy. And this is really important for their success. They also need to be open and collaborative. And that's really important so that they are able to bring innovation happening outside of their organization and source it for their customers. This is really important because 99% of innovation is happening outside of your organization. Whether you are a bank or a fintech or a startup, whatever your investment levels are in innovation, probably more than 99% of innovation is happening outside of your organization. So you have to be open so that you can leverage the innovation happening outside and bring it to your customers. And this is something that we already see in the financial services industry. We see a real shift in the relationship between banks and fintechs and startups. You see the numbers here. 88% of fintechs want to collaborate with banks and financial institutions. And 91% of banks are planning to collaborate with fintechs as well. Now, actually, when you look at these numbers, everything looks really fine. But the reality is a bit different. I'll tell you a story. That's a startup, a fintech startup story. It's a startup that was created 2 years ago, and it has all the ingredients for success. It has a great idea, applying machine learning and AI to open banking data, transaction data, in order to improve the bank's knowledge about their customers, in order to help them better serve their customers. They also had a great team of brilliant data scientists. They executed perfectly their project, and they had a great product and that they brought to market. And they had all the support they needed from a top-tier European bank. They've actually integrated quite early an incubation program from a top-tier European bank. And the timing was perfect. So open banking and AI, machine learning is all timely topics. They, though, had a problem with timing. The problem was with their collaboration with this top-tier bank. Actually, when they first were selected from the moment they were first selected by this top-tier bank to the moment they started working on a pilot, there have been 8 months. 8 months going through the internal processes of the bank, going through privacy committee, a data protection committee, even an environmental impact committee for a startup that was doing machine learning running in the cloud. And then they've started working on a pilot, which lasted for another 1 year and 2 months. So overall, it was almost 2 years working with this bank to end up having a successful pilot, and it was still to be integrated with the bank's legacy systems. There was still integration work to be done. And it was only after these 2 years that they could start any commercial discussion with the bank. So during the 2 years, the fintech startup had actually no cash at all from the bank. They had to survive on their own funding. That's really a problem. That's a real problem for this startup and for many other startups out there that are building great products. It's also a real problem from the bank's perspective. If you think about it, this bank has actually heavily invested in innovation. They have an incubation program, they have an innovation lab, and they have a large team of innovation, which mission is to identify interesting startups and collaborate with those startups and match them with the right departments within the bank in order for them to push innovations to the bank's customers and bring these innovations to the market. Spending 2 years with each individual startup is just not scalable. That's really a problem for both fintechs, startups, and for the banks. And that's where platforms come into play. The idea with platforms is that you're not collaborating in a bilateral way, one fintech with one bank. You are instead joining a community of multiple banks and multiple startups and fintechs. By joining the platform, a startup would have access to many banks already in this ecosystem. In the same way on the bank side, whenever a bank joins the platform, it has access to already connected startups and fintechs. And this helps both banks and fintechs scale up their collaboration and co-innovation. This goes with integrating data and APIs upfront. That's something that platforms usually provide, data and APIs, so that a startup can integrate its product with core banking systems, for instance. It also goes with this integration work done upfront instead of being done on multiple times with each individual bank and financial institutions. And this is how fintechs and startups get to monetize their developments with the platform, accessing, bringing their product actually to all the banks and financial institutions that are already on this platform. And this is, we really get to solve this timing problem, scaling up this collaboration between banks, financial institutions, and startups and fintechs. Usually, the way open platforms work is the following. They are based on open APIs. So this is a way to orchestrate and to integrate multiple services, whether these are about legacy systems or innovative products built by startups and fintechs. They run in the cloud so that they are available to everyone. Wherever you are, you have the possibility to join a platform and access the data and technology to build innovative apps. And they usually come with a marketplace that helps you monetize your developments. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our experience at Finastra with platforms. First, maybe a few words about Finastra. Many of you have probably never heard about Finastra. We are the third largest fintech in the world. We are the largest fintech in Europe. And we are serving 9,000 plus customers, banks, and financial institutions globally. We are serving them on a number of areas: retail banking, payment, corporate banking with trade finance, lending, treasury and capital markets, investment management, and enterprise risk. And we are building a platform on top of all these verticals. So what you see here is really interesting. The open banking revolution is not happening only on the PSD2 perimeter, not only on retail banking and payments, it's also coming to treasury and capital market, and it's also coming to corporate banking. And it is not only about APIs. We are also opening our technology, the technology in which we've been investing for the last 4 or 5 years, the technology that our developers have been using internally to build innovations and to build our solutions. These include UX tools that developers can use to build nice HTML5 dashboards without writing a line of code. These include GPU tools for quant developers on the treasury and capital market space, so that quant developers can write pricing models, derivatives, complex analytics that can run on graphical cards. And they don't need to understand OpenCL or CUDA to do that, the languages required for graphical cards. They can write it in simple scripting language. The platform takes care of translating that into the right language and optimizing it to run on graphical cards. This is all developer tools and technologies that we've built internally and that we are now making available for anyone to connect to the platform and to use to build innovative apps, all available free of charge for developers. So this is FUSIONFABRIC.CLOUD, our platform for open innovation, the platform for unlocking the potential of people and businesses by helping them scale up their collaboration and co-innovation in the financial services industry. This goes with Fusion Creator, where you'll find the APIs I was mentioning and the developer tools that I was mentioning as well. This goes with the Fusion Store, where you can monetize applications that you develop on the platform. And this is all hosted in the cloud, available anytime, anywhere, underpinned by Microsoft Azure, which is our partner. And this is actually how we get to, by combining APIs with cloud and with a marketplace where monetization can happen, by combining this with cutting-edge technology and making everything open to anyone to access, that's how we really enable users and empower them to build innovative solutions. That's how we get to help startups and fintechs grow their revenue, scale up their collaboration with banks. That's how we help banks and financial institutions scale up their collaboration with fintechs and startups. This platform I was mentioning is actually to be launched in 2 weeks' time. We've been working for the last month on a beta version with about 40 early adopters, 40 fintechs and startups already using it. So you see the difference. Instead of spending 2 years with one startup, in a couple of months, we have already 40 startups and fintechs using the platform with apps ready to use by banks. This is how we foster innovation and collaboration, and this is how we reduce costs and reduce the time spent with doing this collaboration in order to drive efficiency. And overall, we are improving the developer experience by offering this platform, this low-code platform with flow programming, visual tools that help developers bring value faster to the market. That's our experience with FUSIONFABRIC.CLOUD, the platform for open innovation. If you'd like to hear more about it, please join us at our booth. Finastra booth. We are here during 3 days of the event, and you can also win a drone if you come and see us. The last slide is not coming.
There's still another slide, so keep pressing. There we are. Did we get it? Bang.
The future of finance is open. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, hands together for Chirine BenZaied.